48 hours. That's all it took. 48 hours between one of the most heartbreaking moments of Alex Eala's young career and one of the most electrifying arrivals the tennis world had seen all season. Most players, after losing a semi-final the way she did in Berlin, would have retreated. Booked a flight home. Taken a few days to breathe, to grieve, to process. Not her. While fans were still replaying that final point in their heads, still sending messages of consolation, still coming to terms with what had happened on that Berlin court, Alex Eala was already moving. Not backward, not sideways, forward. And when that black sedan pulled up to the private entrance of TC Bad Homburg on the morning of June 22, 2026, something in the air changed. You could feel it before anyone even saw her face. The morning mist was still hanging low over the courts when the car door opened, and the woman who stepped out looked nothing like someone who had just suffered a heartbreaking defeat. No exhaustion in her eyes. No weight dragging her shoulders down. Just fire. Pure, quiet, undeniable fire. And the moment people realized who it was, the whispers started. She's here. She actually came. She just lost in Berlin 2 days ago. How is she already here? The answer, when you really look at it, tells you everything you need to know about who Alex Eala is as a competitor. Because this wasn't desperation. This wasn't someone clinging to momentum out of fear of losing it. This was a calculated, deliberate decision made by a young woman who understood exactly what was at stake and refused to waste a single day of the most important grass court season of her life. She had climbed from number 35 to number 30 in the world rankings after Berlin. She had secured something historic, something no Filipino tennis player had ever done before, a seeded spot at Wimbledon. The first Filipino in history to earn a single seed at a Grand Slam. Think about what that means for a second. Think about every junior tournament, every cramped flight, every early morning practice session on courts back in Quezon City that led to that moment. And then think about what she did with it. She didn't stop. She came to Bad Homburg. She came with a wild card into the main draw of a WTA 500 event, the final grass court warm-up before Wimbledon, and she walked through those gates like someone who had unfinished business. Because she did. The tournament itself was already stacked. Bad Homburg always draws serious talent this time of year, players sharpening their games, getting their footing on the grass before the chaos of the All-England club begins. But the moment word spread that Eala had arrived, the entire energy of the draw shifted. Conversations changed. Match previews changed. Because when you've just beaten a world number 2, a former world number 3, and a streaking Queen's Club champion in the same tournament, people stop seeing you as a wild card and start seeing you as a problem. And her first round draw was not going to make things easy. Waiting across the net was Elise Mertens, the Belgian veteran sitting at number 24 in the world, a player who had beaten Eala before, and not just beaten her, had taken her apart. Their last meeting at the Madrid Open 2 months earlier was not a contest. It was a statement. Mertens won 6-2, 6-1 in just 76 minutes, a scoreline that felt brutal even by professional standards. She had figured Eala out that day, neutralized her game, exposed the gaps, and walked off the court like it hadn't even been a workout. But here's the thing about grass. It resets everything. The bounce is different. The footing is different. The pace of play is completely different. And the player Mertens had dismantled on the clay in Madrid was not the same player standing across from her at Bad Homburg. Because Berlin had changed something in Eala. You could see it in practice. You could hear it in the way she spoke. There was a calmness to her now that hadn't always been there, a kind of quiet confidence that comes not from winning, but from surviving. From being tested at the highest level, from having the whole world watch you fall short, and then choosing to show up again anyway. And when the match began, Mertens found out quickly that this was not Madrid. The scoreline, 6-2, 6-4, tells a story in itself. Eala didn't just win. She controlled. She dictated. She made a world number 24 look like she was the one still figuring things out. It was the kind of performance that doesn't just silence. Then almost anyone what Venus had meant to the sport offered her take. She said Venus had always lifted up the next generation, and that partnering with Eala was another example of that grace. Coco Gauff, who had faced both players at different points, was more direct. She called it special. 2 fighters, she wrote. 2 legends in their own right. The word legend might have seemed early when applied to a 21-year-old, But after what Eala had done this grass season, it was harder and harder to argue with. Because let's step back for a second and really absorb the full picture of what this season had already been. She started the year as a promising talent with a high ranking and real potential. She signed a waiver to compete despite concerns, found herself navigating bureaucratic friction that most players never have to deal with, and came out the other side not bitter, not distracted, but sharper. She won a grass court title earlier in the season. She went deep at Queens. She went to Berlin and took out some of the best players on the tour before falling one match short of the final. And then, instead of resting, she showed up at Bad Homburg and won her first-round match against a player who had humiliated her just 2 months before. All of this at 21 years old. All of this while carrying the weight of being the first Filipino player to reach these heights, knowing that back home, 115 million people are watching, not just hoping, watching, believing. That kind of weight does something to you. It either breaks you or it forges you. And Alex Eala was clearly being forged. What made the Bad Homburg week feel so significant wasn't just the wins, or the Venus partnership, or the historic Wimbledon seed. It was the accumulation. The sense that you were watching a player who had rounded a corner and wouldn't be turning back. The ranking climb from 35 to 30 was real. She was one spot shy of her career high of 29, which she had reached in March of that year. And with the points from Mertens adding to her total, that record was very much within reach. But more than the numbers, there was something in the way she moved through that week. No looking over her shoulder. No tentative play. No adjusting to the moment. She had become someone who made the moment adjust to her. And Wimbledon was just days away. June 29th. The All England Club. The most storied tournament in the history of the sport. Grass courts so perfect they look painted. Traditions so deep they feel like they've been there since the earth cooled. And for the first time in her career, Alex Eala would walk into that draw not as an underdog hoping to survive a round or two, not as someone who had to prove she belonged, but as a seeded player. The first Filipino ever to hold that distinction at a Grand Slam. When she steps through those gates at Wimbledon, she will be doing something that no one from her country has ever done. And she knows it. She has always known it. Every match, every flight, every moment of doubt that she pushed through, it was building toward this. She once said that every time she steps on the court, she's playing for the Philippines. That it's always in the back of her mind. That it's what drives her. And when you watch her play, you believe it. Not because she performs it, but because it's evident in the way she competes, the way she refuses to concede even when the odds are stacking against her, the way she gets back up when the score isn't in her favor and finds another gear that didn't seem to exist a moment ago. That quality, that refusal, is what turned a wild card in Bad Homburg into a statement of intent. That quality is what turned a heartbreaking Berlin semi-final into fuel instead of despair. That quality is what has the tennis world genuinely wondering how far this run can go. Because here's the thing about a player who arrives at a tournament 48 hours after losing a semi-final and then beats a world number 24 in straight sets. She's not thinking about what's behind her. She's already thinking about what's next. And what's next is Wimbledon. The second round of Bad Homburg. A doubles campaign alongside one of the greatest to ever pick up a racket. And a chance to do something that no Filipino player has ever done at the grandest stage the sport has to offer. The story of Alex Eala's 2026 grass season could fill a book at this point. But the best chapters haven't been written yet. The All England Club is waiting. The seeds have been drawn. The courts have been prepared. And somewhere in Bad Homburg, Germany, a 21-year-old from Quezon City is already preparing for what comes next. Not nervous, not overwhelmed, not looking at the weight of history as a burden. Looking at it like a reason to run faster. Leben always. And the next match is already waiting.